Hey everyone. So, we're going to talk about something you probably use every single day, even if you have no idea you're using it. It's kind of like this invisible engine that powers our entire modern world, from the deepest parts of the internet all the way up into space. Let me just start with a question for you. What is the one single piece of technology that's trusted to run the entire global financial system, to keep astronauts safe on the International Space Station, and to power the most powerful scientific computers on the planet? You'd think it's got to be some top secret lockdown tech from a government lab, right? Well, the reality is actually way more interesting. The answer isn't some billion-dollar corporate project. Nope. It's an operating system that literally started as a hobby, a personal project built by a 21-year-old student in Finland. And that answer is Linux. How does something go from a simple university project to, well, the dominant force in computing? What even is it?
Okay, so to really get what Linux is, you have to understand this one key thing. You don't just get Linux. You get something called a distro. It sounds like a weird technical word, but I promise the concept is super simple. Let's break it down.
The absolute easiest way to wrap your head around this whole thing is with a simple analogy. Just think about building a car from a bunch of parts. You don't just get a car, right? You have to assemble it from all these essential components. So first you need the engine. That's the heart of the car. In the Linux world, we call that the kernel. It's the core piece of code that talks to all the hardware. But an engine on its own isn't very useful, right? You need a chassis, a transmission, all the gears. Those are the basic system programs that make the engine do useful stuff. And then finally, you add the fun parts. The web browser, your music player, a word processor. Those are the user apps that make it a car you actually want to drive. A distro is just a complete package that bundles all those parts, the engine, the chassis, and the finishing touches into one ready-to-drive car. And just like there are tons of different models of cars, there are hundreds of different distros, each with its own style and purpose. But underneath it all, they're built on this really powerful shared idea. So what is it that makes this whole model so incredibly successful? Well, the answer isn't just about the technology. It's really about a philosophy. It all comes down to one core idea: freedom. See, Linux is what we call free and open source software, or FOSS. And that means exactly what it says. Anyone has the freedom to look at the source code, run it for whatever they want, change it to make it better, and share their new version with everybody else. It's all about putting the user in control. Now, this is a super important point. When we say free, we're not just talking about free as in beer, zero cost. The much bigger idea here is free as in freedom, or as they say, libre. It's the freedom to control the technology you use. The fact that it also happens to cost nothing, well, that's just a fantastic bonus. And this slide really nails the difference. With most software you buy, the code is hidden. It's a black box. You get a one-size-fits-all deal. But with open source, the code is totally public. That transparency means anyone, from a huge company to a single user, can pop the hood and tailor the software to do exactly what they need it to do. And that's why it's so powerful. So how did this kind of philosophical idea turn into a global powerhouse? I mean, the story of how this little hobby project just exploded is every bit as fascinating as the tech itself. It really started back in the 80s with something called the GNU project, which had this huge goal of making a totally free operating system. Then, in 1991, this student, Linus Torvalds, starts his kernel project as a hobby, basically to fill in the missing piece. A year later, he makes this brilliant move. He releases it under a free license, the GNU GPL, which meant anyone in the world could contribute. You fast forward to 2017, and boom, it's running on every single one of the world's 500 fastest supercomputers. And it all kicked off with this. This is the actual announcement. Linus just casually posts, "I'm doing a free operating system, just a hobby, won't be big and professional like GNU." Yeah, I think it's safe to say it got just a little bit bigger than he was expecting. That collaborative, open spirit is exactly what made it all possible. Okay, so what does any of this have to do with you? Well, if Linux is like a car, there are a ton of different models out there. Let's take a quick look at how you might find your perfect ride. Honestly, there is a distro for pretty much anyone. If you're coming from Windows, Linux Mint is awesome because it feels really familiar. Ubuntu is probably the most popular. It has a huge community, so it's easy to get help. Fedora is always pushing the latest and greatest tech. And SUSE is rock solid with amazing configuration tools. It just depends on what you're looking for in a car. And hey, if you're even a little bit curious, there's a totally risk-free way to try it.
Most distros let you download what's called a live version. You just put it on a USB stick, plug it into your computer, and you can literally test drive the entire operating system without installing anything or messing up your computer at all. So there you have it. From one student's hobby to the absolute backbone of our digital world, all built on this idea of transparency and freedom. And that kind of leaves us with one last big question to think about. If the software that runs our world is open for anyone to see, to check, and to improve, what does that really mean for the future of technology, of privacy, and of what we can build together?